Story 1. I don't know why, but it doesn't scare me. I guess with all the pain I have experienced in life, I'm sure whatever happens to me can't be as bad. I have also had good times. Story 2. I am terrified of the idea of death, but I welcome the experience out of pure curiosity. Of course, not anytime soon. Story 3. I don't like the idea of nothingness, where I won't even know I'm dead or have ever been alive. It will be like before I was born. Story 4. It is quite hard to explain. I do not fear dying. I fear the infinite nothingness of not being at all. Even working on the assumption that it will be exactly the same as before I was born terrifies me because my mind cannot comprehend it. Story 5. The idea of death excites me because there is enough information to suggest that it is not the end but the start of something new. What scares me is living a mediocre, painful, unfulfilled life that ends full of regret. Story 6. I often think about death and embrace my thoughts on the subject. This reflection has allowed me to release the fear that many people have regarding it. I vividly remember when I first realized that I would eventually die. I understood the concept, but applying it to myself terrified me. This was over 20 years ago when I was a young teenager. I grew up in a religious household and desperately wanted to feel or believe what my family did. But it never made sense to me, and the idea of hell was frightening. Over the years, I allowed myself to explore the concept of a permanent ending. I now identify as an atheist, and with each reflection, the idea of death became less daunting. I believe that when I die, it will be similar to the state of being before I was born. I experienced neither pain nor suffering prior to my life, so I doubt that death will trouble me much either. What is truly terrifying to me is the idea of existing forever, as concepts like heaven are my worst nightmares. I find peace in knowing everything is temporary, which motivates me to make this life meaningful. I just hope that when my time comes, it is quick, painless, and easy for those I leave behind. Story 7. For most of my life, I was scared of the unknown. I was born into a Christian religion, but I never felt a strong connection to it. I believed while also having reservations. A few years ago, I became ill with a chronic condition called complex regional pain syndrome, which is extremely painful. I no longer fear death. Whatever comes next in life, even if it is nothing, I am okay with it. I will rejoice despite the pain. Story 8. Because I'm a normal person. The only people who say, "No, I'm not scared," or that cringy, when death smiles at me, I'll smile back, are those who don't regularly have to deal with and see death. Story 9. The pain of dying scares me. Being dead does not scare me because I trust in Christ and I know my future is secure in heaven. Story 10. Not ready to die. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, not the opposite. There is a whole universe out there that you do not remember. Earth is meant for suffering, and we have turned it into a lesson in empathy. Because going through a difficult experience, you do not want to put others through it. Story 11. No, it does not. I am privileged to still be leading an interesting life and have been blessed in many ways. Death does not scare me. It is inevitable and unescapable, so being scared is a waste of emotions. Story 12. I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm not suicidal in the least, but I am a medium, so I have been in contact with spirits for 30 years. What I know is that it's much better over there than it is here. Story 13. Being severely epileptic, I made peace with that a long time ago. I cannot express the joy and calm that comes from moving past the confines of the dichotomy of life and death. I truly encourage everyone to strive for it. Story 14. The death process can be peaceful at times, but it may also be uneventful. Honestly, I am not sure what it is like to be dead. Either there is nothing or I feel I have not been a bad enough person to experience a negative outcome. As long as I still have some time to enjoy life, I eventually may grow weary of existing due to aging. Story 15. This is something I have felt very strongly at times. For me, it is about the fear of going from being able to think to not being able to think. When I feel afraid of dying, I see it as the flip side of the love of life. I use this fear to look around me and truly appreciate where I am and how wonderful and bizarre it is to exist in the present moment. It does not necessarily make me less afraid, but it gives that fear a purpose, which I can live with. Story 16. It used to remind me to actually live. Knowing it all ends one day makes every moment more meaningful. It is not about fearing death. It is about not wasting life. Story 17. Death does not scare me, but the thought of dying painfully does. I have experienced a lot of physical pain, so the idea of being injured in a car crash in the middle of nowhere and slowly fading away while in immense pain terrifies me. However, statistically, that is not very likely to happen, so I try not to dwell on it. Intrusive thoughts occur, though. Story 18. To live forever is a frightening thought. I welcome death. However, the process of dying scares me, the pain, the suffering, and ultimately the loneliness. Story 19. When I was younger, I had many instances where I thought I was going to die, but not much went through my head during those moments. Now I feel sick all the time. I leave my bedroom door unlocked in case I die in my sleep. I am more scared that my family and friends might not cope well. The idea of dying itself isn't too frightening, but I am young and often feel depressed at the thought of not living like everyone else my age. Story 20. I go back and forth lately. When I was younger, I had several trips on hallucinogens that helped me come to terms with this. It has been a while since then, but the experience hasn't been forgotten. I don't believe in an afterlife. If there is one, that would be a welcome surprise. However, if there is not, I'm not eager to end my own existence. Maybe it's a genetic thing, but I enjoy existing and experiencing life. For that to end is something I'd prefer to delay as long as possible. That said, I have family and children who will be hurt when I die, and I'd prefer to wait until my death won't affect them too much. In any case, my perspective is that it will happen when it happens, and I'm not going to live in fear of it. However, I'm not in any rush for it to happen. Story 21. No one gets out alive. Death is the journey that connects us all. Wealthy, poor, saint, or sinner, death comes for us all. Time is precious. Time spent contemplating your mortality is time wasted. Get out there and live. Story 22. A few years ago, I was given a few hours to a few days to live. If you had asked me the day before, I would have said I was ready. I was wrong. I was not ready. I am not ready. I don't know now if I will ever be ready. I always feel like I have things to do and places to see, and I want to be here until I'm done. I'm sure that will change, but until then, I'm living. Story 23. The time, place, and manner concern me, but I don't worry about what comes after because there is nothing I can do about it and no way to know conclusively before it happens. Story 24. In the light of day, when all is well, many of us will say we are not afraid of dying. It is inevitable after all, so why spend time stressing about it? Receiving a cancer diagnosis makes one think about death in a more concrete way. Before that, I would have said no, I am not afraid to die, but when the real possibility presented itself, I was scared. I was scared because I did not want my family to suffer and have to mourn my passing. I was scared at the thought of not living to see my grandchildren. I was mostly scared that my wife would need to take care of me in the same way we had to care for our elderly parents as they were dying. That is soul-crushing, back-breaking work, and I never want her to go through that again. So if you think you are not afraid of death, that is good, but be honest with yourself if no one else. It is okay to be scared, but that fear does not have to consume your life. Story 25. It isn't the death that scares me. It's the afterlife. Where do you even go? Is it just a black void? Or do you go to heaven or hell? Story 26. Two things. First, the method of death. Hopefully it is not painful. Second, the thought of leaving my children without a father. Story 27. I have always contemplated the void of nothingness from a very young age. The thought of transitioning from consciousness to unconsciousness sometimes frightens me. However, I find some comfort in the fact that I will not be around to witness it, if that makes any sense. Story 28. What scares me much more is spending years paying thousands each month to eat rubber chicken in a waiting room. I will definitely have an end-of-life plan. Story 29. The work of the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies makes me think something meaningful is happening. I hope it's something positive. Panel discussing their work moderated by John Cleese. Story 30. You cannot be unafraid of the idea of your death without an actual psychological issue in your brain. Story 31. The only thing that is scary is if there is really an afterlife. If it's just like falling asleep, then bring it on. Story 32. I don't want to be in a nursing home and mistreated or unable to walk. I refuse to accept that. Story 33. It depends. What if I accidentally get chopped off by a chainsaw, or cough my intestines out through my esophagus, or have a drilling machine stuck in my brain? Story 34. I remember when I was younger, trying to be an edgy teenager. I kept saying how death didn't scare me, but I wasn't in a great space at the time. Now, I have a lot of purpose, and I'm terrified of that thought because I'm not ready yet. I'm still really young, and I feel like life is just beginning for me. I've lost some family members recently, and there have been times when it feels easier to swim down and ignore life. However, at the end of the day, I am glad to at least be alive. I'm sure that as I get older, I will come to better terms with it, but right now, I just want to be with my fiancé and enjoy my life with my family. Story 35. I feel more concerned about what happens to my children and grandchildren after I die than I am about death itself. That is why I have substantial life insurance. Story 36. It really depends. If there is no God, there is nothing to fear. So the question is whether the hardware and software of life came into existence randomly. Everyone must find their own answer and their own peace with death and the fundamental questions of life. No one can provide a definitive answer. Many claim they have one, but there is no definitive objective proof. Story 37. Death itself? No, there's no human comprehension of what could happen after, so it's not worth worrying about. The moment of death, though, is terrifying. The truth is that things are going well until they aren't, and there will be a moment, hopefully very brief, but depending on the situation, it could feel quite long, of realizing you're dying. Regardless, I just live my life because over-preparing for death robs you of the time you have. Story 38. I have lived a life where, for the most part, I have not deeply cared for anyone and nobody has deeply cared for me. Later in life, I don't even vaguely care about anyone, and nobody vaguely cares about me. So it seems like a fair deal. As it pertains to death, I would welcome a quick and painless exit. One night, I would like to take a substance and have that be it. I have no goals, nothing I look forward to, or really care about. In my daily life, I work a responsible role, do good work, and try to be a good person to others. I do all this to have food, housing, and basic needs covered. Other than that, I watch a lot of history, current events, and societal trends videos. So, if I had that substance and could quickly go, I would. Story 39. It is going to happen sooner or later. Why fear the inevitable? My only concern would be how it affects others. Just because I make peace with it doesn't mean everyone else will. Story 40. Death itself does not scare me. What frightens me is the effect my death will have on others. I have a husband and a 9-month-old baby. The thought of leaving them without a mother and a wife terrifies me. Story 41. Personally, it does not scare me, but I am concerned for my friends and family members. What I mean is that I am troubled by what it can do to someone when they know a loved one has passed. For example, a friend of my brother's went into cardiac arrest last night. He is now on life support. It's difficult for me to say this, but I expected it since he did not take care of himself. He is actually younger than I am, and I am in a similar situation except I have been managing my health. The difference is that I know this can happen to me since I have congestive heart failure. I am not afraid of death. I embrace it because I know it can come for me at any time. However, I am scared of how the news will affect my friends and family, if that makes any sense. Story 42. I cannot stop it, only delay it with positive habits. I might as well enjoy myself for the time that I have. Story 43. The idea of dying before my children are adults scares me. If I can raise them to that stage, I won't mind then. Story 44. It is hard to be too scared because I have lived a full life, accomplished a lot, and done almost everything I wanted to do by age 45. At 50, this is all just bonus time, along with the bonus suffering because getting old hurts. I would be okay with it if it ended tomorrow. Story 45. Not as much as it used to. If my spirit moves on to something else, I am fine with that. If I simply fade away, I will not be around to be disappointed. Story 46. Yes, I spent a significant part of my life wanting to die and tried multiple times to end my own life. I didn't think I would live longer than 23 or 27. I'm 30 now and I finally want to live. I'm finally happy, yet my body is punishing me for all the times I tried to hurt myself. It's honestly terrifying. Story 47. No, it does not. The idea of living a life and at the end realizing that I never truly lived at all is terrifying. Story 48. I see death as liberating and reassuring. I find comfort in some of the objective truths as they show consistency with reliability. Although the pain just before death is rather frustrating, I have not died yet, so I'm not sure if it's actually painful. I am an optimistic person who wishes to go sooner than later. I don't see life as a blessing but as a random occurrence that will perish in due time, and then the universe will cease to exist. So why not go sooner than later if you are not going to be aware of your life experiences afterward? But why don't you just enjoy life? I do, and very much at that, knowing that all experiences are insignificant against the grand scale of the cosmos and existence itself. Don't take things too seriously. This applies to the concept of death as well. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.